What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. I'm here with Ian Powell. I'm Logan Schultz. Ian, how's your last 7 days been, dude?
Oh man, this week has been hectic as shit. Just constantly kind of getting things set up, onboarding a bunch of new people, having multiple new in-person people. So I'm just trying to figure out. It just feels like we're in chaos still. Just kind of getting everything set up, and overall, it's been a pretty good week. I mean, I can't complain. The weather here has been turning for the better, which directly impacts me since I'm at the gym all day. So if it's sweaty or if it's super cold, I don't like going through layers. And then by the time you go into the afternoon, you're wearing shorts and stuff like that. But overall, man, I really can't complain. How about you, man?
For sure. No, it's been a great week for me as well. What I'm doing on social media is finally starting to pay off. So I don't know about you. I'm actually kind of curious now that you said you're signing up a bunch of people. Did you not get a high fluctuation, like an influx of clients the first couple months? And then all of a sudden it's like March and you're having a high influx.
Yeah, it was pretty delayed for January. Then February started to pick up, and towards the end, it's been a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, yeah. So I guess what I'm doing on social media is finally starting to work. I'm onboarding 5 new clients, which is a lot for me. The, the yeah. So that's nice. All of them, 4 of them are straight from TikTok,
Hmm.
which is cool because it's like people I've never met. They're not referrals, nothing like that. They already knew my opinions on a lot of things. So, like, the consultations were easy. It was great. So, been a good week, but it's been a busy weekend. Finally finished hanging up my security cameras,
Oh yeah,
which is
nice.
which has taken me like a
A
week and a
while.
half to do.
That's not
Yeah,
that bad
well,
actually.
it's taken so long because I'm running cable, and so I have to, use a fishing rod to fish it through the walls, and then I've got to go find it and then pull the wire through, and so it's been kind of a
Mhm.
headache. But enough on wiring. We are discussing off-season training setup and how to program, right?
Absolutely. And I figured this would be a pretty good segue, because you're bouncing into your first off season phase here. You had your hold phase, recovery phase, and now you
Yep.
you and Andrew have gone and set up your off season phase to set up a split that brings up certain body parts. If you want to go into detail on that, I think we all want to hear that.
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, last year my arms came up a lot, but I still needed my back to come up. And most of last year I trained it 1 time a week, and I've gone through the process of training it twice a week and things of that nature. And it's come up. It's for sure better, but it's not. It's nowhere near where it needs to be when everything else is starting to kind of get to the place that they need to be. So Andrew made a suggestion that we hit back every third day, which is very abnormal for me for the last several years. I've only trained 4 days a week. Um, and so my body's adjusting to that, right? So basically, right now, the split is back and then legs off, back, push off, posterior chain, arms off, and then I repeat that. So, I'm hitting everything else is being hit just a little bit over a week. I think it's what, like every 9 days, everything else is getting hit once, except for hamstrings and glutes are obviously being hit a little bit more. And then because they have the posterior chain day and then the leg day, and then back's
Mhm.
being hit 3 times in what, 9 days essentially. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, a lot more volume than I'm used to, with the same intensity. So surprisingly, though, I'm a little sore. Tomorrow's my first posterior chain day, so I've made it through 2 back days. I'm a little sore, but it's not too terrible. Not yet, anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing whenever you're setting up your back day and you're programming like that is that where people don't really understand is you can have a setup like that, but maybe you say one of your days is more intense than others, and then you're not recovered by the time you come around, and you keep kind of digging. And next thing you know, you're in this chronic state of just being super, like not able to recover from this. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have things, and your setup is perfect to you have more recoverability, so that's more feasible. What are some of these signs that you look for whenever like you're seeing some maybe downward grade of performance, and you're trying to maybe auto regulate your own training to bring about a lagging body part?
Yeah. So for one of the things that I'm paying attention to as I'm training um, is my back sore first off, and then I want to gauge how sore is it. Is it so sore that it's hindering my training? Like, am I not getting am I not hitting the same numbers or better? Because if I'm not, that tells me that I'm in a little too deep, and maybe I need to pull back for this one session, right? And we've talked about it before as far as like auto regulating with how we're feeling and um, with what's going on in life and things of that nature, right?
Right.
So I won't rehash that, but that's kind of the main thing that I'm looking for in approaching this back every third day thing is like, is the soreness that I'm feeling, is it hindering, and am I still progressing in each day if I'm still progressing over the last one? Because obviously, like with 2 back days and a posterior chain day, each training session is different. They're not the same workouts.
Mm.
Um, and so with that, I'm trying to make sure that I'm still making progress within each day. But also the way that it's structured is that I don't really have compound movements on those 2 back days. So they're all machine, or like a T-bar row, a
Yeah.
chest, but it's chest supported. So I can't go nearly
Right.
as heavy. It's not as much of a compound movement. So it's not as taxing. Now, my posterior chain day, I'm going to have an RDL in there, and then I'm going to be doing the mega mass row, which is a little bit more taxing. Um, so we'll see how I respond to that, and then how it leads into my next back day after that.
Yeah, I think that's for people whenever you go into an off season, you go deeper in off season, your strength starts coming up, and you start really kind of pushing some of these numbers. I think these are one of the situations where you need to be a little bit more mindful of how much output you're giving and how much downtime and recovery you're getting,
Mhm.
because when you start getting up there really really strong, and maybe you start getting more connections, and you start to really improve as you start to have more frequency in these training, these movement patterns, there's going to be a time period where maybe you just you start kind of ripping it, and then maybe your recoverability is a little bit less and stuff like that. I notice whenever I'm deeper in my off seasons, it's like I've swapped to 4 days. Me and Ben have discussed this. I swapped to 4 days. I'm normally at 5. I've been to 4, and I've also been to 3. When I was peak off season as a natural, I went down to 3 days.
Yeah.
Um, then again, those were really really intense training sessions. Whenever you start chopping down your volume, you need to make sure that your intensity uh, demands that kind of recoverability.
Yeah.
So I can kind of notice whenever I'm deeper in my off season, kind of like I am now, and strength is starting to like not peak out, but it's continually on the rise. I have to be more mindful of how my recovery is, and I feel like for a lot of people, this is more of an experience kind of approach to it, listening to your body, understanding
Mhm.
how to make these adjustments with your body. But I think all the metrics that you kind of said for people, and this is why we tell people to really track with a log, is so that if you are in your off season phase and you're submitting your workouts and you're logging in your stuff, and you're seeing, your numbers are staying the same for a while, or pumps are not as good, or you're just not able to make any progression in it. Sometimes even just taking like a week off that movement, just to kind of not necessarily take a
Mhm.
deload week and stuff like that, because I don't really do deload weeks. I'll just kind of pull things as I see it. So say you haven't progressed in hack squats, or now it's starting to go down, right? Just pull that movement for a week or two, and then start off with a 20% less of like a lighter load, and let yourself kind of
Yeah.
build back up into that kind of progression.
Yeah. 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 I think that a lot of things that um, it's one something that is definitely a little bit more advanced, and for the more advanced person is taking into account the effect that the loads you're moving have on your CNS. And I bring that up because on a leg day, if you're doing a heavy hack squat, a heavy squat, or anything like that where it's really spinal, it's heavy spinal loading and it's heavy fatiguing, it's going to affect your recoverability on other days, right? So like that's why I'm squatting right now, but I'm cutting it off at 6 reps. I'm not going higher, I'm not going closer to failure. I'm cutting it off at 6 reps, right? And
I'm
that's
just doing one set of
to,
that.
yeah, and that's to make sure that I'm not overextending my CNS because I've still got to recover from doing back day every third day,
Hmm.
you know? And my legs don't need to grow nearly as much. So that's another factor that I'm taking into account, right? I'm hitting hamstrings and glutes really hard, but quads, I'm just not taking it to those same levels.
Right. And I think that's what people need to also think about when considering how they're designing their off-season splits to truly bring up body parts. Something's got to give. Something's got to go on the back burner. For you, right? It's quads. Like, what the fuck? We don't need to destroy our quads. If I have an athlete that has great quads and they maybe have shitty shoulders or they have shitty back, I'm just gonna be like, well, we just need to touch up your quads with a little bit of exercise, a little bit of stimulus, but we need to focus the most of our attention to the weaker body parts. So that's why you'll have some of these modified splits. Like I have a 4-day split, but on my back and my quad days, I do arms first. I'll do triceps first, or I'll do biceps first, because I'll make those a priority before
Okay.
going into my other movements.
So
So
what does
because I pulled
your
an arm day,
okay. So what does your off-season training look like right now?
so it's a 4-day split, and it's Monday is shoulders and hamstrings. So again, shoulders are first because they're a weak part. Hamstrings are one of my stronger parts. So shoulders and hamstrings. Next day is triceps and back. Wednesday off. Thursday, biceps and quads. Friday, chest and shoulders, or shoulders and chest.
Okay.
So again, I'm kind of
Yeah.
double tagging my shoulders specifically to
Mhm.
kind of create that wider shape,
Yep.
and then hitting the arms again because more extremities as white boys as we are, it's better. Even though I feel like my arms, both arms grew a lot this past year because we were training together. We were able to really kind of push each other, and that's a whole nother thing that we can talk
Yeah.
about here in a minute. But just being able to see those where those weak body parts are and where it comes. Like I still lack in width. Obviously, we all are probably going to lack in width unless we're built like a transformer,
Yep.
but not many of us are. So,
No.
but it's mostly like the density and like the the quad and the hamstring and the back density. That's kind of what I can kind of play into. Chest as well. It's more these extremities to kind of make those just match it a little bit better. So
Mhm.
when you're trying to design an off-season split for whatever athlete, whatever division you guys are looking at, you need to take proper assessments of contest prep pictures and really see and evaluate where was like the biggest weakness and prioritize those and kind of put your weaker body parts secondary, but make sure you're still paying attention to them. But most importantly, kind of paying attention to this auto regulating training performance, which the more experience you get with these stuff and the more you have this banter with your coach and you're able to log things in. That's why with everybody, even if they are an experienced lifter, I don't really care. You need to do a workout program with me and you need to do a log because I need to be able to see it. If you're just shooting things in the dark and you're just doing your own programming, I have no idea what the hell is going on and I can't adjust for that.
Yeah. Um, First off, I think that one day we should hop on here and do um, pull up some physiques and just kind of discuss how we would approach an off-season training, how we would
Yeah.
assess a bodybuilder, um, and kind of talk through that, and then how we would adjust volume and splits and stuff like that. Right? I
Yeah, I
think
think
that
that'd
would
be
be
really
a
cool.
good, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to kind of get an eye, just so that people kind of see how we think about that. Um, So how much volume do you have allocated for each body part? Like how many sets till failure are you running?
So pretty much most of my training is to failure or 1 to 2 reps
Yeah, yeah.
short. It's pretty proximal to that.
Hmm.
So with shoulders, it's about 12 sets total, 6 and 6 usually.
Okay.
Triceps and biceps, it's about 4 to 5 sets per workout. Quads, I'm kind of leaning back on a little bit because I'm my knee's gotten a lot better, but again, whenever you start kind of training for a long period of time, there's going to be aches and
Yeah.
pains, and you need to train around them. If you train through them, you're going to be
The
in a
knees are
world
one of the
of
first
trouble.
things to start to hurt.
Yeah, especially as I'm reaching, all-time
Yeah.
highs as far as body weight goes. So I just need to be mindful of that. Once prep comes around, that'll probably
Yeah.
dissipate. Back has a decent amount. Back has like 6 to 8. Hamstrings has 4 to 7. I'm a pretty low volume guy as far as those
Hmm.
those goes, and I've kind of trained myself for a long period of time to almost make myself pretty anxious about training. The fact that I only have this set or this set to improve or whatever it may be, to really push on those sets. And
Hmm.
obviously, having a training partner really helps if you're able to have one in your off seasons.
Yeah. The whole training partner conversation for most of my life, I have not really liked having a training partner. I've always liked being but I've always preferred to be in a gym where I knew people in there that could spot me. Okay. So
Mhm.
it's like I can always grab somebody for a spot if I need it. But I never really liked having a training partner because I never stuck to one training program in that, like, I might do most of the same stuff each week, but some days a movement just might not quite feel right. And I would swap it out. Right. And so that's where I would find in previous years, that's where I would find issues arise. And so and then, I don't like people being late. So that drives me nuts. but, but this past year, training together and training arms together made me realize that I'm kind of at this point in bodybuilding where I need a training partner. And it's preferred if I have a training partner because, or at a minimum, I need to be logging everything that I do. Normally, I would just keep track in my head, and I'm pretty good at that um, on like the compounds, so like the heavy stuff. But I'm not so good about it on all the accessories and the smaller. I
Yeah.
say smaller lifts, just not the compounds, right?
Mhm.
Your isolation stuff. And so I feel like for me, it's just like taking it up another level, right? Taking another step forward in progression and making sure that I'm progressing in the manner that I need to be. And I need a training partner, or I need to be logging all of my training as an accountability factor. So,
Yeah.
because the reality is that it's difficult to find a training partner.
Oh yeah, no, it's extremely difficult, and I don't know if I've always been lucky or maybe I've always just kind of had people kind of gravitate towards my training in a sense, but I've always I can some basically all of my training partners throughout my life have ended up being one of my best friends, or they end up becoming very somebody that's very in my inner circle.
Yeah,
I can remember I had a workout partner in the YMCA, John. He was really close, and then I had Jay down in Corpus, Dakin. I've had multiple ones. Obviously, you, Joe, and like some of these people that I consider like
yeah,
the most trusted people I have. I think that's also kind of hard too, is because your training partner should also just kind of I feel like should be, someone that you can really trust because you're training with them and you're trusting them essentially when you're training really hard to kind of go all out on these sets and kind of pay attention to all the little things. And in regards to the training, I've always kind of led the workout. So if something would pop up, I'd be like, fuck this. We're scrapping this shit today. We're doing something else. And they're just like, oh,
yeah,
okay. It's just like they kind of go along with it. Or, Joe will kind of bitch about something. I'll just be like, just go do that. I'll go do this. How about that? But it is definitely like something, especially in your case, right, where you can unlock that level. It's like you can almost go so far doing the same things that you've always done, and then eventually you run into a wall, and you're like, it's okay to unlock that next level. Maybe this is what I need to do. And
it's time for change.
yeah, there's going to be some phases, and I think that's part of the evolution of being a bodybuilder, being a competitive bodybuilder, and just going through the training. But if you can absolutely can get somebody that's consistent, I think the hardest part of the training partner is finding somebody that can consistently match your schedule because
Yeah,
sometimes schedules will just not match, especially as we get older
that's
now.
that's the hard part
It's
is
the hardest
that
part.
Yeah. So I think once I'm able to quit my job, it'll be a little easier because it'll allow more freedom for me to kind of adjust
For
to
sure.
whoever I want to train with, right? But then again, it's also like I would also have to find somebody if I want to train with them every day that needs to bring up their back just like I do. That's willing to train back every third day
Yeah.
because that's a lot,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not a set schedule every week. So not only I have to have the freedom to be able to train, when they can, but they also have to have that freedom as well. So it's like
Mhm.
it's this push and pull thing where it makes it really hard because I also need to be able to trust this person that they're going to spot me in the proper manner. They're not going to pull the weight too early. They're not going to give me too much of a spot. They know my limits. They can recognize, you know,
Yep.
when we're close to that breaking point. And they know when to push and pull. And it's just kind of a fine balance of things. Um, so it's almost like right now I'll settle for if I can have a training partner a couple times a week, like
Or
maybe I
even
need
just
to
like
find,
on one day, right? Like you have
yeah,
that day, you're like, I need a training partner on this day
yeah,
specifically.
yeah. Maybe I find a couple different people that are able to train with me and we just train whatever that body part is, that session is together. So
Sounds like you're going to be a gym ho here. So if you guys are in the Magnolia Woodlands area, hit up Logan to be a gym ho. He'll work you out. And don't ask
personal
any
stretching
questions.
included, personal stretching
Personal stretching.
included.
Hmm.
You have to sign
Yep.
an NDA
No warm up, no lube.
because
Nope.
what happens in the gym stays in the gym.
Yep.
Yeah, no lube.
Yep. Keep your mouth shut. No, so that's the hard part too, is that because you will be bouncing around with like gym people, right? And maybe you do a workout and it's like not the same, and you're traveling
Yeah,
in different. Like it just becomes like you're
yeah,
all
too
over the place.
convoluted, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So to wrap this up, let's see. To program your off-season training, I would say we need to be open-minded in how we adjust volume, right? Because it's all about a balance of finding how much can we recover from and kind of towing that line, and then allocating the proper amount of volume to the proper body parts. And I think that I find one of the biggest problems is that most people's best body parts are the body parts that they like to train the most. And so getting them to pull back on that because that's what they enjoy so much
Hmm.
is kind of the hardest part, right? And getting them to
For
train the
sure.
body parts that they don't like to train more is kind of where most of the difficulty lie. And I'm not gonna lie, like that's most of my problem as well. Like I don't really like training back all that much. But I used to really enjoy training chest. I don't really like it anymore because my chest sucks now. But like I enjoy squatting, I enjoy lifting heavy weights, and I enjoy pushing myself to those limits. I just know that I can't do that all the time because my quads grow easily. So it's all about balance and figuring out, and accepting like what is it that I need to do to make the progress that I want to make.
Yeah, I think you guys have to kind of look at what is the kind of most amount of volume or most amount of frequency you can do for that given body part, and track that and make sure you can still recover from that and you can adjust from there. Because there's a lot of, I hate the saying of there's multiple ways to skin a cat because I love cats, but that is the truth. Um,
Yeah.
there are definitely different ways to kind of approach this. So if you're trying to figure out, how to set up splits and stuff like that, and how to, I would really just kind of start out with do the split that you can adhere to the most, whether that's a
Hmm.
multiple day split, whether that's a Monday through Sunday split. Find something that you can, consistently train and find that sweet spot and then work from there. Definitely start writing in either in like an app or writing in your workout log. I have 12 different workout logs, all the way starting from 2013, that I have. It's probably scribbled. You probably can't even read it anymore, but it's important that you are still tracking. when I see people in the gym and I see them writing down stuff and pen and paper, I'll go up to them and I'll just be like, hell yeah, like, good shit. I won't even have these people won't even know me, and I'll just like go up to them and they're just like, oh, okay. But it's the acknowledgement that you are trying to focus and you are trying to pay attention to how you're responding and stuff like that. So finding a good amount of volume that you can do that you can recover from is going to be a starting point. But obviously, you haven't been in the gym in a while. If you haven't been in the gym in a while, you're going to be sore all the freaking time. So start low and then kind of build yourself back up into enough to where you're feeling sore for maybe a day or two, but then you're kind of starting to kind of recover from that. I'm not somebody that focuses too much on soreness where I'm like, oh my God, I'm sore for 5 days. That was a fucking badass workout. No, I'm sore for 5 days. I fucked up. I did something.
Way too hard.
I went way too hard, or I did a movement that I wasn't used to, and it wrecked me. And now I need to like sleep and relax for a little bit because the next time I try to do it. So kind of how I have, especially by Monday, Tuesdays, how I set up is I do a heavy stiff leg deadlift, and then the next day I do a heavy pin layer and a seal row. So I need to pay attention how I'm recovering between those two because those two will delete me if I try to do more. That's why I only do like one set on each. Because if I had 2 sets on all 3 of those, you wouldn't hear me for the rest of the week. I'd be gone.
Yep.
So pay attention to your body and pay attention to the volume that you're doing. And I think the start of this is to track it. Just start tracking. Even if you have no idea what to do, just go in there and start tracking with a workout log.
Yeah. And once you're tracking, you can also, it makes it easier to assess each week. And you can be like, okay, maybe last week I didn't quite go hard enough. So you add a set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week you're like, okay, that was good. Or I can go harder. Like I'm recovering just fine. Like, and you can kind of play with that volume and you add more until you get to that point where it's like, I need to back this down. And that's really the only way that you're going to find out, kind of what you can tolerate and what you can take. But yeah, I agree. If I'm sore for 5 days, I went way too hard, or like you said, it's just a movement that my body wasn't used to, and it caught me off guard, which is perfectly fine. But I don't know about you. I don't really get sore like that anymore.
No, it kind of depends because the way I have, like I told you, the Monday Tuesday setup, I can feel that back and hamstring posterior chain kind of soreness till up to like today, really, because it's a back to back compounding movement. But other than that, like I'm usually pretty steady sore for like a day or two on all body parts that I train, minus arms and shoulders, because fucking whatever, they don't do that. They don't, you can just destroy them and it doesn't really matter. Other than that, like the big 3, the chest, back, and legs, usually 1 or 2 days, mainly focused like on the back and legs that are usually the source, but it's never anything too crazy. I would say with people in your workout log too, a pro tip that I found is every single day, right at the end of your workout, write a little note section and write how you felt, how the day was going, like maybe like did you eat a lot or did you sleep very like shit, and even when you're working out, like you could be like, oh, like I'll write in parentheses, stay here next week, because maybe I won't know that feeling. So next time I go around, I'll say like, oh, like I should go up, I did this, but maybe it was really hard, and I'll write stay here this week hard, or I'll be like go up, like write these little mindful little tips to yourself, because not every day you're going to feel the same, and it's important to have that biofeedback for yourself. And then once you kind of do that for a while and you learn that biofeedback, you can start auto-regulating your own training, kind of like we do, because you start to learn and start to know your body more. But once you put thoughts to paper, you can see it and you can reflect on it. You can start building those tendencies and those habits over a long period of time.
Yeah, that's a really good tip there. I like that. Solid. Anything else, dude?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Great episode this week. Comment if you want us to talk about anything specifically, and we will get to it. All right?
Later, guys.
Later.